Yo, welcome back to another YouTube video. It's Kieran here, back again. And Dublin. I wanted to talk about Dublin today. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because usually I like to write my notes. I'm quite an introspective person. So on the 31st of May, I wrote in my notes, frequency is low in Dublin. That's all I wrote. And I tend to write my notes pretty much like every single day. Any kind of thoughts that I find enticing or any thoughts that I find to be a little bit inquisitive, I just tend to write it down just so I can come back to it later, get a little bit of a grasp on things, so that I can explain maybe why that thought came up, or you know dissecting my mind a little bit. And the more I came to think about it, the funnier it was. And the thing about Dublin, right? I've lived in Dublin for 4 years. I've worked there. I went to college there. I made a lot of friends there. Grew massively as a person in Dublin. What I will say about the city, though, in general, is not so much the city itself. Dublin is a great opportunistic place on paper. You have some of the biggest tech corporate companies there in the world. You have probably some of the best working opportunities to go and work there in Europe, and obviously with the low corporation tax, it's a great place to do business. Time zone wise, it's great. You're in the center between America and the rest of Europe as well. So Dublin on paper, is very good, right? The problem with Dublin, and I like to give this analogy, I like to give this example. I lived in, I don't need to harp on about, like, I've lived in a number of different places. New York being one of them, Dubai, Spain, Dublin, Ireland, countryside, middle of nowhere, you name it, right? And this is not to say that I haven't experienced, or I need to experience more. I definitely do need to experience more, and there's a lot for me to understand and navigate through the world. What I will say is, from what I understand, it's like, I remember when I was in New York, and you say, for example, you were talking to a New Yorker, for example, someone who's lived there, worked there for a number of years, goes about their day to day life there. You ask them what New York is like, right? Tell me what living in New York is like. They might say the subways are awful. There's crackheads going around everywhere. It's congested. It's busy. It's very touristy, and you know sometimes you don't know your right leg from your left leg on the subway because it's so crowded and so cramped, right? But it's New York, and I love it. I love living here, right? There's always that ending of positivity and that ending of opportunism about the place. Like, yeah, it might be expensive. Yeah, it might be super, super crowded, super, super touristy, all the above. But people love living there, right? And when you say the same thing about Dublin, it's like New York is a lot more expensive than Dublin, mind you. Like, I remember when I was living there, going to work every single day, paying $7 for a chai latte every time I was going to work, and thinking it's crazy. So I don't think we can even put the excuse of like, oh yeah, but Dublin has this, or Dublin doesn't, or has that. The thing that Dublin does have is the people's attitude in it, right? You got all these very successful, intelligent people working in these massive corporations, succeeding in the economy. The attitude of Dublin, though, is, yeah, it's bad. Public transportation sucks. The weather's shit. There's loads of homeless people around. The social divide is so evident. The difference between the north and south is so evident. And that's it. That's it. There's no, however, I just love Dublin City and I love everything it has to offer. I just love the grunge, the grind, the work ethic of Dublin. That's why I stay here. There's no like positive energy attached to it. And it might sound a bit nuts. And like, you can disagree with me, you can agree with me on this or not. It doesn't really bother me. But it's just obviously food for thought. And I feel like, honestly, since this is my first summer really back home in the countryside, on the border of Meath and Cavan, where I grew up for half of my adolescent life, in 3 or 4 years. And I can safely say my mind is a lot clearer here, doing my work. I'm very privileged and very lucky to be able to work remotely and to be able to, build myself up in the online space. But and the thing is, I'd love to move to Dublin. I'd love to spend a summer in Dublin. I'd love to, be there. And who knows? Maybe I probably will at some point. But I don't have that fighting urge to. Oh, I really can't wait to go live in Dublin. Or I'm so excited, and I'm so like excited about the opportunities and the energy and the bustling nature of Dublin. I just don't. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm saying that, because if you look at some of the largest, most successful cities in Europe, you know, do they compare? Not really. But I'm saying this because Dublin actually has so much potential to be one of the best cities in the world. It really does. And if you look on, like, obviously the lists online of what Dublin is portrayed to be, it's like one of the most expensive cities in Europe. It's one of the worst places to live in Europe. Financially, it's one of, the grimiest, worst weather, XYZ. It's like lowest on the scale of like places to live in Europe. However, it does have so much potential. I feel like it's just the people there have the wrong attitude associated with it. It's like we're not accepting of the fact that Dublin is hard, that Dublin is wet, that Dublin is windy, that Dublin is everything Dublin is and always will be. And it's like that lack of acceptance of like what we want Dublin to be, rather than just accepting Dublin how it is and loving it the way it is. And it's the same really with everything in life, with everything you perceive in general. It's like, of course, you'd rather it be 36 degrees every single day, walking to your, tech sales career job, and meeting up with your friends and having a drink afterwards, having a Guinness and having a lovely way of life. And it is like that for some days of the year. I'm not saying that at all. Majority of the time it's not. But it's about just accepting Dublin for what it is and loving it for what it is. Same way New Yorkers accept New York for what it is and love it the way it is. The same way, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a different example, but I can't off the top of my head. Those are kind of the two examples that I wanted to get across in this video. But yeah, it might be it might be a silly idea. I believe it isn't. I think it's a really important idea to get across, and I think we should just love our cities and love our country a lot more, and stop putting such a huge emphasis on what it should be or what it could be rather than what it is. Because that's the very step to actually changing it. That's the very step to actually seeing, you know, the reality, and things change within your own perception. It's like you have to see it in the way you want to first. And why would you want to self sabotage and see things in a negative light if you can see things in a positive light for the benefit of you and your own future? So, food for thought. Happy Tuesday, all of you all.